Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Fire and Safety Education Program Series, hosted by Queensborough President Donovan Richards' office, as well as New York City's Fire Department. My name is Frank Joseph. I'm the Chief of Staff and Senior Advisor to Queensborough President Richards, and it really brings me great pleasure to open this evening's presentation. I, of course, would like to thank the FDNY for taking the time to educate our communities and present critical life-saving strategies that focus on fire prevention. A special thank you, of course, to Lieutenant Frank Mineta, who's here with us. He will present. I always say that if you're somewhere and there's one Frank, you know you're in good hands. But if there are two or more Franks, you can close your eyes and rest assured everything's gonna be all right. So really glad that the Lieutenant is with us. He's been with the FDNY for over 41 years and a lieutenant for over 31 years, which is very impressive, and joined the Fire Safety Education Unit around 11 years ago. Fire safety is really important for each of us, whether you live in an apartment building or if you live in a house. It's important for everyone to practice safe habits when you're cooking, when you're lighting your candles, or using fire for any reason inside. At the end of this presentation, something that you're going to see is the FDNY will share a link for you to register for a smoke alarm installation. Please take advantage of this, especially as we move on to these months ahead. Remember to wear your mask during your appointment when the specialists come and when interacting with others. And of course, also remember to wash your hands frequently and to socially distance as well. I want to let you know that this is a series, and so that means that our next FDNY Fire Safety Education presentation will be on Wednesday, April 21st at 6 p.m. And after that, we're going to have one in May, May 19th from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And tonight's program is being live streamed on our YouTube page under Queens BPO Press, and on our website, which is queensbp.org. So I'm so very excited and thankful that you're all here. I hope you take advantage or you learn some, that you can take notes, share it with those that you know, and please do register for that smoke alarm installation. I know that I plan on doing so. I'd be remiss before I pass it on to Lieutenant Mineta if I did not thank our team here at the Queensborough President's Office, who are making sure everything works smoothly. In the background, working on a lot of the logistics, we have Chris Barca, our press officer, and we also have Aldo Grillo, our director for IT. And most importantly, I'd like to thank Tiffany Eason, our events coordinator, who helped put this entire program together, the entire series together, and will be working on the Q&A. So when you have your questions, please send them. We want to make sure that Lieutenant Frank Mineta answers them to the best of his ability. So thank you so very much. And without further ado, I'd like to just pass it on to Lieutenant Mineta. Take it away. Thank you, and have a safe night to everybody.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Joseph. And I thank Tiffany Eason as well for inviting me, along with Borough President Richards. Much appreciated, my opportunity to be here and share some time with you. My bio, you have. I don't know where the time went. 41 years plus went by pretty fast, and I usually tell people every day is a great day, and time has moved too fast. But I really valued my time in the Fire Safety Education Unit the last 11 years or so, and it's another way of bringing some things that I've learned over my time out to the community. I am a Queens resident, and I've been here my entire life in Queens, and I don't intend on leaving anytime soon, hopefully. I am going to put on a PowerPoint that I am going to go through. It may be pretty quick because I want to save time. If anybody has any questions, I believe we can answer questions at the end. And as Frank number 2 stated, you're in good hands, I guess, with him certainly, and I hope to be of help as well. And then we have the alarm program information that is part of the PowerPoint, but and I also I don't know who can access it and get that information because I put it in already. I did put information in the chat room. I know Miss Eason has that, and she's going to repeat it as well. If she checks the chat room, she'll see that information. I think she's probably done that already. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to go to the PowerPoint and go through that. So bear with me a moment while I do that. Okay, share screen, start broadcast. And I think we're there, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm good. Okay, as you see, thanks to Mayor de Blasio and Commissioner Nigro for allowing us to have this program. And usually when I come out and pre-COVID, when we were coming in person to visit people, part of my outline when I speak to people is prevention, early detection, and planning. All three components extremely important. We can debate what's more important than the other, but they're all equally important in my opinion. And we're going to start by letting people know that fire deaths, if we have one fire death, it's much too much, right? In my opinion, in my time. We've had 63 fire deaths last year, which is, again, too many, but it was a 5% decline from the year before when we had 66. And the trend over, the last 15 years is that fewer than 100 fire deaths annually. When you compare it to 1970, we had 310 people lose their life. Crazy number, right? The top three causes of fatal fires, in 2020 were electrical, number one, which was number one the last 2 years, smoking and cooking. Over the past few decades, the numbers have dropped pretty drastically, as I said, and there's a direct link to these programs like fire safety is doing. But I like to give credit to the people, all right? The people out there are heeding the message and practicing a little bit of safer habits and whatnot. And I think that is extremely important. And also the field units are responding rather quickly and doing a great job on the fire prevention side as well. Most fires do occur during the late to early morning hours when most people are sleeping, which when that happens during that time period, our time that we have to get out to safe location is diminished. Most fires do occur in the kitchen and bedroom area. Most fires, mostly in the kitchen, I would say. Most fatal fires during the winter months. And the number as far as what causes fatal fires fluctuate in New York City, but nationwide, the top cause of fatal fires is smoking, even though in New York City, it was electrical the last 2 years, okay? As you see, major cause of residential fires, improperly discarded smoking materials. I recommend, if people are gonna insist, I don't tell people what to do in their life, but outdoors if possible, okay? Faulty electrical wiring and space heater use or open flame. Most fires smolder, especially we're talking about maybe fires started by smoking sometime before ignition. And that takes away from our escape time if we don't visually see anything or are not aware that something is happening. Circumstances that contribute to the possibility of being a fatal fire victim. Number one, I can't emphasize it enough, no operable or audible smoke alarm to provide that early warning that basically gives you more time to escape, right? Having an inappropriate evacuation response, right? Including attempting to fight the fire. Any attempt to fight the fire using a fire extinguisher or what have you, you have to have a reasonable expectation you're gonna be able to use that extinguisher or put that fire out. Okay. And another problem with the escape routes is we're having issues. And I know myself, lack of space in the home, it's not an easy thing, but sometimes we're met with clutter type conditions that could be problematic. Re-entering the fire building. We can't emphasize enough, when you're out in a safe location, stay out, get out and stay out. Not having that fire plan and practicing it. We do go to schools where they practice escape plans in the form of fire drills. And when we talk to children in school, we're usually met with a shrug of the shoulders when we ask them what they do at home. So we have to emphasize it's important at home as well. Blocked or inaccessible escape routes. I mentioned the clutter type conditions that we've met. So you have to be mindful of that and create a good environment that you can access your escape routes easier. On the fire prevention side, how fires are happening, cooking related fires, most fires in general happen that way. A leading cause of fires and fire injuries is unattended cooking. We're busy in our lives. We have food cooking on the stove. We do other things, answer the door, or what have you, possibly fall asleep. We have problems that way. So maybe setting some type of alarm when you're cooking, so we don't forget to revisit that kitchen area. And if we have young children, create a fire safe zone around the stove at a young age, so we don't have any injuries such as burns or whatnot to children in the form of them touching the stove and possibly spillage from anything cooking. Unattended cooking, as I mentioned, all right, problematic. A lot of times we use cooking oils and whatnot, and a good thing is to do that gradually. Use your oils, heating them gradually. We want to use the back burners first and turn the handles inwards away from the front of the stove. Number one, children that are young looking up. That's a point that I want to emphasize for people that have children, and even ourselves, possibly knocking into the handle, sustaining burn injuries that could be avoided. All right. Maybe the next one is more for winter type, but it's a year-round issue. We want to be mindful of our clothing because of loose clothing can dangle and catch fire if it comes into contact, and we want to be very careful of that. We teach the young children in school, stop, drop, and roll, and if we run, the fire will get larger. So keep in mind that same message, no matter what your age. All right, stop, drop, and roll. Use the floor, roll back and forth, if that were to happen. But maybe I remember my mother used to use an apron all the time, and it's a good idea. Okay, don't get tunnel vision. Take a look around your kitchen. Create that safe environment. Anything that can catch fire, such as paper and plastic bags, etc., keep them away from that stovetop. The microwave, you see the photo there. Never use any kind of aluminum foil, metal objects in there. If anything happens, you see the doors open and the flame is coming out. You want to be careful of introducing air into any kind of fire, such as the microwave, the stove, or anything like that. If you're going to do anything, make a quick decision and dash and try to take care of something, possibly putting the lid over a pan on top of the stove, or maybe using some kind of baking soda is something you'll see later on in this cooking segment, but that's something that can be used to smother the fire. This next local law, 117 for cooking, this was enacted as a result of a fire that happened before 18. I believe it was the end of 16 into 17, where we had a fire up in the Bronx, where the end result was 13 people lost their life in a non-fireproof building, a building that was a multi-apartments, multi-story non-fireproof building with a fire escape and whatnot. Fire occurred on the first floor. Unfortunately, a young child was involved in the kitchen area, and the stove was accidentally turned on. A fire occurred. People left the apartment, and the door was left open, which is something. On another note, anytime you have a fire, close the door. Close the door to the room, close the door to the apartment. I didn't say lock, close the door. It enables everybody to exit in the apartment a little bit easier. And people, if you're in a multi-apartment building, it would make it easy for those people that need to evacuate under those circumstances. So what happened is this law now, if you're in a renter, if you have any children 6 years of age or under, you can request from the landlord a stove knob cover that prevents the accidental turning on of the stove. Even if you don't have a child under 6, if the tenant requests one, the landlord is required to provide them. If you don't want to go that route and ask, you can purchase one yourself. It would go a long way to keeping your family safe. If we do have, as I mentioned before, a stovetop fire, you want to wear an oven mitt because obviously you're talking about a hot pan or some type of pot. You turn off the stove. This is what I recommend, being simple. I mentioned baking soda before to extinguish the flame. That's basically the same chemical that's in a multi-purpose ABC, Class A, B, C extinguisher that is used for ordinary combustibles, oils, or electric. You can use a multi-purpose. We'll get to that momentarily. I would like to stay simple. And like I said earlier, the pan lid, just slide it over with the oven mitt on your hand to smother the fire, and you leave it alone. You don't want to use water because oil and water does not mix, and you could cause splashing and spread the fire faster. And you don't want to pick it up because you could sustain really pretty severe burns if something were to happen and you had spillage onto your person. If there is a fire in the oven, turn off the heat, keep the door closed, as I mentioned earlier. Fire extinguishers, okay? I mentioned Class A, B, and C, the appropriate type for the corresponding class of fire. I mentioned earlier, ordinary combustibles, Class A, flammable liquids, B, and fires involving electric, C. So you could see the pictorial that's on the extinguisher also. If it doesn't have a diagonal line through it, it means it's good for all three type fires. That'll be on the extinguisher, the pictorial, the letters. And it also might say on the extinguisher somewhere multi-purpose. And on a side note, that baking soda is just about the same chemical that's in an ABC extinguisher. On the right, remember the word PASS. That's an acronym. Even if you have nothing, you know nothing about extinguishers, each letter means something. It'll give you a little bit of a base on how to use it, but that's not good enough. You have to really take a look at it and understand on how to use it. Anytime you use an extinguisher, you should have a reasonable expectation that you could put the fire out and you're familiar with it. P means pull the pin. There's a pin or a tab in the handle, as you see to the right of the word pin, pull. You pull the pin to unlock it. A would be to aim. You want to aim at the base of the fire, not where the fire is going, where the fire is burning. You want to stand back 6 to 10 feet away and work your way in. And the first S is to squeeze, now to expel the product. And the second S, is to sweep. All right, you want to sweep from left to right, and until either you're running out of product or it's extinguished. Now, again, you're not going to be, for the most part, most people are not used to using it, so you have to really be familiar with it. Electrical fires. Number one cause of fatal fires in New York City the last 2 years. Most fires begin in the plugs or cords of appliances such as refrigerators, air conditioners, lamps, space heaters. A good rule of thumb with those type of large energy draws is anytime it heats or cools, anything you use should be plugged right into the wall outlet. You're going to see that again. Lamps and things like that must use the appropriate size wattage for the fixture you're using. You can't just use any bulb in any type of fixture. It usually has something on the lamp that tells you what the maximum amount of wattage can be used. All electric cords, you want to protect them from damage, all right? And you don't want to put them under carpeting. And something with extension cords is their temporary use, not permanent. Too many people, like you see here, wrap them around, put them underneath the carpeting, wrap them around the walls, and use them permanently. They get damaged one way or the other, maybe moved furniture or whatnot, and that's problematic. Take a look at all your extension cords and your appliances. And if the cord is damaged, you have to replace it with a new one. As you see here, UL, Underwriters Laboratory symbol on the left there. That's an independent agency that tests these products to a safety standard. It may also be ETL or sometimes FM, but Underwriter Laboratory is the main governing body. It's an independent governing body. On the electrical type fires, three-pronged electric devices and three-pronged outlets. Sometimes the older wall outlets have two-pronged and they don't fit in, or some people might cut the third pronged plug on the device. That's not a good practice. You want to get an adapter and use it, and you make it permanent on the wall outlet. Then you plug your plug into that what is now a three-pronged outlet. Any kind of television, stereos, computers, they require air space so they don't overheat. Keep that in mind. Like we mentioned earlier when we're talking about space heaters need space, and it's also a proper placement, and I think we'll revisit that in a moment as well. Overloading outlets, whether they're in this kind of device or whether they're in a power strip or surge suppressor, these devices don't give you more power, they just give you more places to plug things in, okay? And don't piggyback extra appliances into these cords or wall outlets. Unplug things that you can unplug. I don't ask you to go crazy and unplug everything in the house, but such things as toaster ovens, hair dryers, flat irons, coffee pots when they're not in use. It's easy to plug them back in and use them, okay? As I mentioned before, avoid plugging any high wattage items such as AC units, refrigerators, irons, microwaves, dishwashers, deep fryers into the same outlet or circuit. Never use an extension cord with them, okay? If they heat or cool, directly to the wall. Power strips and surge suppressors. As I stated, they don't provide more power, just more access, okay? They got a limited capacity. They don't can't accept all of these things working at the same time. And all power strips are not surge suppressors, or as you see on the screen. A surge suppressor may look like a power strip, and what a surge suppressor does is has a component inside that protects your big ticket items from damage should there be a surge in pressure, in power due to any kind of factor, maybe a lightning storm or something in your home, and it doesn't burn out the item requiring replacement. Heavy reliance of all these things, when I see that, it's telling me there's too few outlets. And what I would recommend is getting a licensed electrician to take a look at it. Home heating. Major causes of home heating fires are poorly maintained systems. I always tell people now Saturday happens to be the start of springtime, but who's counting? It's another day away or two. I think it's the 20th. And placing these space heaters too close to combustible items, as you see in the photograph, it's improper placement. And they should be used only when you're awake, space heaters, okay? And the newer type, UL rated, they have safety features that shut off if they're knocked over, okay? Like I say here, once you go to sleep, they should be unplugged and turned off. People have a problem with that. Space heaters, the new type, have the automatic shut-off features, as I mentioned. Give heaters space. Space heaters need space. It says at least 3 feet from anything combustible as bedding or furniture or anything that can burn. I would recommend even more than that. Never use an extension cord because they require a lot of power. All right. When heater cords, while they're normally warm, anything that feels extraordinarily hot probably is. They should be unplugged, stop use, and to have somebody that is licensed or anything like that take a look at it, and only use that trademark, as I said. And buy these items with the trademark from reputable hardware stores, okay? Don't go to 99-cent stores, even though I use 99-cent stores for certain items. They're not bad with all items, but anything of a safety nature should be from a reputable hardware store or a large box appliance store or something like that. Portable kerosene heaters, as you see in the warning box, or propane heaters are prohibited in New York. They're really dangerous items. They can be sold in the confines of New York City, but they can't be used. All right, keep that in mind. Smoking. If this isn't a red flag, I don't know what is. 7 times more likely to have a fire than a non-smoker. Okay, and nationwide, as stated earlier, more people die in fires, discarded smoking materials than any other type. Even though in New York it's been electrical the last 2 years. Bedding, usually the first material to ignite. If people are sleeping, it's really a bad thing with people in bed, as far as if they're in bed and smoking, bad thing. If you must, I don't tell people what to do in their life, but if you insist, use large, deep ashtrays, completely douse the cigarette or smoking material before discarding. I would leave it alone for a while, never laying down, as I said, or lying down. Never keep a lighted cigarette in an ashtray. You're asking for trouble, okay? We have had an increase in candle-related fires, and how does a little flame like that, which is, I mean, I like them as well, but they are dangerous, and you can have a little candle turn into a major catastrophe. You don't want that. A lot of people use candles sometimes for emergency nature. I would tell you should use flashlights and things like that. You'll see that in a moment. If you insist, sometimes it's religious observance, but if you have to use candles, real candles, use candles with flame protective shades or globes. And the same thing, be mindful of how you place them. Again, it says 4 feet away. I would say, again, a little bit more is safe from anything combustible, draperies, decorations, blinds, bedding, or of the like. Some people have pets, and that's problematic too, or even yourself or your children. All you need is one little mistake, and we have a problem. And just like I say with the stove, don't leave the immediate area, set an alarm. The same thing goes with candles. You really should extinguish them if you're leaving the room. I don't know how many people are going to do that. This is what I was referring to when I was talking about emergencies. We should get in the habit of testing in a sort of way like our go bag type situation. Every set a time period, maybe it's the first in a month, every 2 months, whatever. Have batteries for things you may want to check to see if they're still up to speed and working. Have them available. Like I said, smoke alarms need to be tested monthly, so you can maybe do this on a monthly basis, maybe the first in a month. All right, and make sure everything is working properly. Early detection, your smoke and carbon monoxide alarms. We're going to talk about the program probably in a little while, but installing and maintaining your alarm reduces your chance of dying in a fire right in half, 50%. Okay, and the truth be told, this is another red flag. 70% of the fire deaths that we investigate, we find out that they occur in homes with a non-functioning smoke alarm or none present at all. All right, so that's what makes it so important to check them monthly. Okay, people have them, they think they're working, and they're not. Fire happens, and we're in severe trouble. We're behind as far as in our escape plan. Install at least one smoke carbon monoxide combo alarm, or individuals, but we install the combo type on every floor, and if possible, a smoke alarm in each bedroom. The more, the better. Okay, we will do that in the program. The difference is if you're in a NYCHA complex, you have to go through the NYCHA number. I'll give that to you as well. I think I mentioned it before. I think I put it in the chat as well. If I didn't, I will. Alarms should be installed on the ceiling. Not less, if you put them, okay, they have to be on the ceiling, but not less than 4 inches from the wall if you're putting them on the ceiling, any wall. So they should be sort of centered would be best, or within 15 feet of your sleeping area. If you put them on the wall, they have to be up high, no closer than 4 inches, no further than 12 down. Why? Because smoke rises. It's more the prerequisite because of smoke, not necessarily carbon monoxide, but they'll work up there for carbon monoxide as well, because carbon monoxide attaches itself to the oxygen molecules in the air. But smoke goes up and it has to fill the entire ceiling, and then it slowly drops. So if it's on the ceiling, it's going to activate faster, giving you more time for escape. Test your alarms, as stated earlier, at least once a month by pressing the test button. If your alarm still uses the removable batteries, the ones that uses the removable batteries, you can't buy them any longer in New York City, but as far as the smoke alarm goes, but they're still able to be used because they're good as long as they're not older than the 10-year, which is the recommended usage for the battery operated ones where you had to remove them were 7 to 10-year life cycle from the time they were made. Okay, the new type, 10-year without a battery. Okay, if you have to, we just had to change your clock. You could have used that as a time to change your battery because it's 2 times a year as the clock change is. All right, as I just said, all new smoke alarms should have a sealed 10-year, non-replaceable, non-removable battery, which is the one that our installation program with the Red Cross and FDNY install for you. The alarms that use the batteries that have to be changed, the chirp used to tell you that it was time to change the battery. Single chirp every 30 to 60 seconds now, low battery, malfunction signal. On the 10-year new type alarms, they have to have an audible sound that tells you the end of life is there. 3 long beeps, 3 long beeps. I'm going to do this. You won't see me do it, but I have an alarm in front of me. I just want you to hear the difference. It's going to be a little bit piercing, but just listen. This is a combo. It's going to go through 2 series of long beeps and then 2 series of 4 short rapid beeps. The 3 long, smoke fire. The 4 short, carbon monoxide. And there's a longer delay between the 4 short beeps. And then it resets. So you're going to hear an initial beep. Then you're going to hear the sounding. Smoke alarm, one more time. Okay, now listen. That's carbon monoxide. 4 short beeps, a longer pause, and one more time. And then a little reset chirp. All right, the alarm is still active, and you could do it if it's on the ceiling, and that's great. It's good to go. The old type, people used to remove them when they were sounding because of cooking or whatever, and they sometimes never got put back. Another part of the installation program, which this next segment, I'll go through it very quick, is for people that don't have the ability to hear, the deaf population or hard of hearing. There is another device that you're going to see that basically listens for people that can't hear a standard smoke alarm. Okay, and if you have moderate hearing, you might be able to hear this alarm sound. And if you have no hearing, the alarm has a vibrating pad. Okay, a standard smoke alarm is high pitched, 3150 hertz, where the sound that the bedside, it's a bedside alarm for sleeping hours. It has a vibrating pad and it does make a sound, but it's lower pitched, like 520 hertz, which you see on the bottom. It has a small strobe, but it's not like what you see pictured here on the screen, which is a strobe you may see during awake hours. Now, I say awake hours. There's studies that were done. Strobes really don't wake people up because they did studies and they found out unless you're really not sleeping, you're not going to see the strobe. That's why you have the bed or pillow shakers. All right, that will alert the person that has it in their bed underneath their mattress. After a regular standard smoke alarm sounds, the vibrating pad shakes. It may have a little bit of a visual strobe, as you're going to see, because you're going to see the device, but it's the bed shaker that is the what does it. All right, this is what the device I'm talking about. You'll see the where it's illuminated fire, but it's really not like a strobe. And you see the wired bed shaker, which goes underneath the mattress. And the like. Now, the alarm program, if anybody requires one of these, somebody that's, like I said, profoundly deaf or needs hearing aids, takes them out, can't hear a smoke alarm, we will install these too, free of charge, okay? And now we're getting to the Greater New York Home Fire Campaign, information on a person that's not in NYCHA, not in NYCHA. Could be in apartments, private homes, what have you. The American Red Cross and the FDNY partnered, and we install these alarms as you see on the screen. If you're in need of the smoke alarm, you can fill out the form that's on the link that I provided if you want to do it on the computer itself, or you can call the number that you see, leave your information, you will be contacted, and we will take all the information, and eventually we will come to your location. We try to get everybody in an area so we can do one day of installing. Right now, our people, fire safety education people, are installing these alarms, all right? We have teams that are going out and doing this. The Red Cross, I don't think at this point in time got the approval yet, but the Red Cross had wonderful people coming and doing installations. When COVID happened, they held it in abeyance, but I'm assuming that pretty soon they are going to be doing the installations as well, and we could reach more people. Okay, so you can use this link that you see here. I also put an easier way that I found on the chat room. And as you see on the bottom of this, NYCHA residents are not eligible for this program, but you should contact the NYCHA Customer Contact Center at the number provided, 718-707-7771. Okay, I'll keep that there for a little bit and write it down or revisit the chat room. Okay, planning. Planning is the last stage, important fire safety and tips that I want to give you, and you need to discuss this with your families. Very important. Having that plan. This is showing you, even maybe making a little schematic, the different means of egress, the meeting place, like I said, maybe in the front. This schematic has a fire escape on one side. It's showing you where the primary exit is, the secondary, things like that. Having that plan can mean the difference between survival and losing a life. All right, this is, again, some different things you may want to do. I don't know, using a floor plan, using a graph, what have you. This information is also online. Like I said, any kind of safety literature is on that website that I did provide in the chat room. All right, and you want the meeting place to be in the front. And anytime you escape, again, remember, close the door to an area. When you get to a safe location, that's when you call 911 and let us know. And we respond. And again, in the front, if somebody's not there, we would want to know, and you could let us know. All right. Very important. Knowing your building, fireproof versus non-fireproof. I referenced it before. I believe it was with you folks, but also in the I had an event right before this. I went over the same. Very important to know if you live in a fireproof or a non-fireproof. There are some telltale signs. A fire escape is usually indicative of non-fireproof because it's required to have the secondary means of egress. Okay, if there was no combustible material, wood, I-beams, things like that, in the construction phase, you may not be non-fireproof. Non-fireproof, in a building like that, the fire can spread from apartment to apartment, room to room, very easy, floor to floor. In a fireproof building, maybe NYCHA, maybe not. The fire usually contained to the apartment unless the door is left open or it's auto exposes on the outside via an open window or so forth. If you don't know, you can check with the Department of Buildings. If you're unsure and on whether it's a certificate of occupancy or some other way, they'll be able to tell you if you don't know whether it's fireproof or non-fireproof. And there's a reason why you want to know, okay? If you live in a non-fireproof building, as I mentioned before, the fire will spread if it's, not dealt with. And the bottom line is you have to you put your escape plan to use and leave your building immediately. The big difference is in fireproof buildings, all right? And if the fire is in your apartment, you have to leave immediately as well, right? And as I stated, close the door behind you, maybe close the door to the room itself first, and then as you leave, close the door behind you. You want to do it quickly. You want to use your time wisely. Don't stop. Look for anything that you think is important. If it's that important, it should be part of your fire plan where you could scoop and go. If you live in that fireproof building and the fire is not in your apartment, this is the big difference. All right. It's usually safer to stay in your apartment rather than entering dangerous smoke-filled hallways. It's problematic sometimes where, say in fireproof buildings where people start wandering in the hallways and they put themselves at risk, and then they become part of the problem a little quicker. We had a building in Manhattan, a fireproof building, not NYCHA, it was a private building. And the door to the fire department a few years ago was left open, and fire came out into the hall, smoke, and the stairwell door was open. And the person in the next apartment, it was the daytime, it was on the Eyewitness News, and I was home that day off. I saw everything from the helicopter reporters. The person was with a child on the reporting that the fire was next door. He was guided to stay, get back inside, be guided by the fire department who was already en route to the scene. He was fine. Person at the end of the hallway slept through the whole thing. Two gentlemen, 10 floors above, decided to leave. One was found deceased 8 floors above the fire. If they had stayed in their apartment, I'm sure things would have been turned out different. So keep that in mind. You would want to limit any smoke spread, certainly, putting wet towel maybe underneath the door or sealing any opening somehow. Part of that emergency go bag that I mentioned when we were talking about batteries and things like that of an emergency nature, I also say, why not have emergency tape that you could tape around the door or any opening so you can limit that smoke spread if you were in this type of situation, okay? As mentioned before, don't try to fight the fire yourself. Fighting the fire delays your escape, and also it delays notifying us to be notified to get to your location, all right? So as mentioned, don't take time to gather any personal belongings. If anything is that important, plan on it before and scoop and go, as it says. The closest or safest. Sometimes the closest may not be the safest. That's going to be something you're going to have to judge when you're there. If you're in a non-fireproof and you have fire escapes and exits of that nature, now is the time. Anybody age appropriate that would be using that, now is the time to test and see if you can even access it. I'm not saying to have to get out physically, and because it's not 100% the easiest thing in the world, but in emergency, you're going to have to do it, even if you just get below the fire in that situation. But now is the time to see if you can open the window and access it. Not the easiest thing sometimes, all right? If you do have a fire, okay, if smoke is present, you may have to stay as low to the floor as possible, depending on the smoke buildup, all right? Close the door on your way out. Never use an elevator. You would want to use a staircase to exit the building. And if you have, the staircase may be in the form of a fire escape, just an exterior fire escape, stairway on the outside of the building. But you have to be careful no matter what. Okay. All right. E911 system. It's very important to explain to families that in a worst case scenario, it shouldn't happen like this, but it could. If you happen to get trapped somehow, close the door between you and the fire. Put a barrier between the two. Contact 911. That's a worst case scenario, okay? And some special situations, sometimes people have special needs, members of their family. One is possibly members with autism. What we found is that if you practice these fire drills, it's even of more importance because it may help you, because they discovered that people that have this with autism respond well to routines. All right. So, and also they discovered that as far as sense of security, possibly wrapping the individual with a blanket or coat will give them that extra sense. Picking a quiet meeting place, okay. If you're out at a safe location, at least you're out. If it's not as quiet, okay. But if you could, it's recommended, maybe in a car or a neighbor's house or whatnot. All the things that I talked about, facts. Most fires do begin in the kitchen or bedrooms during the colder months, as I mentioned. Major causes of residential fires, improperly discarded smoking materials, electrical wiring, use of heaters or open flame, hot grease on the or grease on the stove, hot fluids and things like that, left unattended. No operable or audible smoke alarm, right? 70% of those people we found have lost their life with that type of situation. Not having an appropriate evacuation and using your time inappropriately by attempting to fight the fire when you know you may not be able to put it out. Not having a plan at all, or I mentioned earlier, clutter or anything that can block or make your escape route inaccessible. Knowing where your escape routes are, all right? Please review your fire safety plan with your family. It doesn't have to be like fire drills that you do, like people do at work or in a school environment, but you still should have that safety plan and maybe go over it in some form, one way or the other. Another very important thing is if there any kind of caretaker situation, that you let them know that nothing is more important than your family, all right? If you're leaving somebody in their care, make sure that the number one thing they do is if the situation dictates that they have a fire and you have to exit, that they do so, and there's nothing more important than that. Place smoke alarms in every sleep area if you can. We will do that in that program. Create and practice the escape plan. In an emergency, as mentioned, leave the home immediately. Any kind of flammable materials that you may have. It's usually in private dwelling areas and whatnot. A lot of times such things as paint and chemical type situation, maybe in a metal vented cabinet in like a garage area, and sometimes things may have to be stored outdoors. You can't have an overabundance of those items. Keep that in mind. And if you're in doubt, you can always call the Bureau of Fire Prevention, and you can get that number through 311 if you have any doubt with any kind of fire prevention item. Don't overplug your outlets, right? Stay alert around the kitchen. It would go a long way to reducing kitchen fires. Any kind of flame, candles, matches out of reach of children would be very important to do. Teach kids at a young age, obviously, to never play with the matches and lighters. A locked cabinet would be good. And if you do have a fireplace, very important to have a barrier in front of it. So if you have any kind of blowback or kind of popping with embers or anything, it doesn't come into the area and is contained to a chimney or whatnot, heating units and whatnot. If you do have fireplace and whatnot, have a licensed person look at it every once in a while, to see if there's maintenance that you do, or just take a look every once in a while to see if it's up to speed. Okay. And that's about it. So what I'm going to do with that is I am going to, hopefully I'm going to leave this and go back to my screen. Bear with me. I think I am back, right? So please join me, the moderators, Tiffany or Frank.
Hi, Lieutenant Mineta. So if you could lift your camera up just a little bit. There we go. Now we can see you.
Okay, I was up to the screen. See, you notice these, as you get older, it becomes harder, right? You're a young lady, so you're not there yet. But the bottom line is I was closer, and that's why you saw me from here,
No worries.
I wasn't blessed with some talent up here on the top of my head, but I have a busy brain, so maybe that's why. I don't know.
That is important. Thank you for that fantastic presentation. We will now open the floor up for questions. Before I get into that segment, I would just like to introduce myself. My name is Tiffany Eason, and I have the distinct pleasure of serving as the Queensboro President Donovan Richards event coordinator. And we can jump into the questions. So I put into the chat earlier, if anyone has questions, please drop them in the Q&A box and we will address them now. So I see someone put in the chat a question about the sprinkler system in apartments. And they want to know, how do you know they are functional and installed properly? There doesn't seem to be a way to test the system. What triggers the sprinklers when a fire occurs?
Well, what happens is I mean, it's not easy for the occupant to test, but they're required to be tested. You know, I'm not sure exactly. That'll be a question for fire prevention, how often the landlord, if I may, has to check them. There is things that we would look for, like supply piping, if they're open and closed and whatnot. But what happens with sprinklers is the heat activated. They have links that are in the sprinkler heads, and they could basically, when the heat gets to a certain temperature, they fuse, which basically they melt, and water is coming down through the opening, automatically. Okay, or it's automatic sprinkler head, which opens and closes. But that's something that the staff of the building, the maintenance or whoever is testing these things, they're required to have somebody do the maintenance on it.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, how can I dispose of an old fire extinguisher?
Well, it depends what old is, I mean, the older I get, the younger I think old is, I don't know. But the NFPA, which is National Fire Protection, what they do is they have rules and whatnot as far as maintenance of items. And NFPA 12 is a section that deals with fire extinguishers. And NFPA 12 means 12 years. So 10 to 12 years basically is what they say with the multi-purpose extinguishers that are usually one-time use. And if it's more than that time period, what you could do, and I have one right here actually, and it's empty, just to show people, this is a small extinguisher. But what I did, because it was older than that time period, I used it as a prop when I do come out. And what I did was I depressurized it myself by turning it upside down. I put my hand in a bag, I tied the wrist because it is messy. So I got the product out by depressurizing it, and then I turned the knob, as you see. I don't know if, let's see, I probably put it on so tight that I can't open it, but you open it and you empty it. It's basically baking soda, like I mentioned in the presentation. And I basically dumped the baking soda out, and then the canister itself I put in recycle. You may be also able to bring it to where you're purchasing it, and they will do it. Like I don't want to give a company, but if you went to one of these large stores where if you're purchasing one, you give them that, and they'll give you a new one, and they'll take care of it for you. All right. It's a messy job if you're trying to do that, but you're getting the point. Old ones with different types where you don't want to mess around with that. But we're talking about this type. You can definitely discharge it. All right, and you always have to look at the gauge if you're wondering if it's good to go, because there's a green arrow and it's green in the middle. it's either overcharged or discharged, losing pressure. So you got to look at that arrow on the extinguisher to see if it's still able to be used.
Awesome. The next question is, so someone is asking if someone happens to block a fire hydrant on a regular basis, how can they remedy the situation? How can they resolve that? If someone continuously does that.
I mean, the first thing is the police department can get involved, the fire department can get involved. It is obviously a dangerous situation when that happens. I know in Queens, and like I said in the bio, I'm a lifelong resident, and I know in my neighborhood in particular, it's very, very tough. A lot of large population, more cars on the street, and it's problematic. And the PD can get involved. I know our local precincts and whatnot I've seen it in the local paper here where basically the article has said, you let us know, we listened, all right, and basically the PD was notified and his car's being towed away, not just with hydrants, but just illegal parking in general. And but you can call the PD. You can also call the 311 number and let them know that that's happening. That somebody is blocking the hydrant, and they will notify the proper agency, whether it's fire, police, or whatnot, to take care of it. Just to me, just the summons, I don't know, to me, it's not taking care of the problem. The problem is not the problem is the car being there. All right. If I respond to a location and I don't know where the hydrants are, if I'm not familiar exactly with that block, I may miss it, and it may cause me to not be able to do what we need to do by accessing that hydrant. That's the important part, at least in my opinion. The money side is the money side. That's a separate issue. But I would notify PD and notify the FD via the 311 number and let them know that a situation with parking is rampant. If you have to go through the politician route by notifying somebody, a local representative, then I would do so.
Okay, great. Thank you. If anyone has a question, please drop it in the Q&A box, or you can raise your hand and unmute yourself and you can ask your question. So I'll give it a few seconds to see if anyone would like to raise their hand or drop a question in the chat.
While I'm waiting for somebody to put the question in, if I may ask, Ms. Eason, did we provide those links that I provided as far as?
Thank you. Yes, so I shared it in the chat as well. And based on what you added, all of the other panelists were able to see. So yeah, I received it and shared it. I see someone else has a question. Oh, someone doesn't see it.
Right.
Okay, so I will share it again.
Yeah, anybody that's joined after it was posted may not see it. That's like what I was mentioning to you earlier.
No problem.
Yeah.
Okay, and so while I'm doing this, if anyone has any questions, please just unmute yourself. And if they don't, I take it your presentation was very informative.
I thank you. That's very nice. I thank you for the compliments.
Absolutely. Okay, so I guess they're seeing it. And again, as you said, for other fire safety videos, everyone can visit, or anyone can visit fdnysmart.org/connect. And I take it, it's 7 o'clock now. I take it there are no questions. So on behalf of Borough President Donovan Richards, I would like to thank the New York City Fire Department and especially Lieutenant Mineta for his very important and informational presentation. For follow-up questions or comments, you can contact the Office of Queensborough President Donovan Richards at queensbp.org or call 718-286-3000 or email info@queensbp.org. Everyone have a great night. Thank you, Lieutenant Mineta. I share the information in the chat. Good night,
Talk to
all.
you soon.
Yes.